Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Hood Memorial Christian Church. I'm glad that you are here today. It's a special Sunday for us as we celebrate one of our own who is heading off, and we're so thrilled to be able to be a place where we can nurture one another and help one another grow into God's cause. And so we're going to celebrate our very own Pastor Ryan today. Lots more on that. If you are worshiping with us online or in person, we want to welcome you today. Grab the connection card in your bulletin. If you're here in person, fill that out and let us know of your presence here today that way. Specifically on the back is a place for you to jot down prayer concerns. Anything that's going on in your life that you would like for me and Pastor Joni and Pastor Ryan to pray about this week, we'll be lifting those concerns up. If you'll just fill them out and fold it and put it in the offering plate when those come around later in the service. And if you're a guest of ours today, then just allow this connection card to be your offering this morning. If you're online, we would love for you to text the word welcome to our church telephone number, and you can be welcomed in that way. We'll text you back and ask you how we can be praying for you. So just text that word welcome to 910-892-2711. Let us stand together and lift our voices in song as we sing King of Kings. Let's stand. The words will be on the screen.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word,
these words from Psalm 124. If the Lord has not been on our side, let Israel say this. If the Lord has not been on our side when men attacked us, they would have swallowed us alive. When their anger raged against us, the water would have overpowered us. The current would have overwhelmed us. The raging water would have overwhelmed us. The Lord deserves praise, for he did not hand us over as prey to their teeth. We escaped with our lives like a bird from a hunter's snare. The snare broke and we escaped. Our deliverer is the Lord and the creator of heaven and earth. Amen.
Will you join your hearts with mine as you bring close to your heart those folks who are in your life that you'd like to pray for, that you'd like to lift up today, those situations across the world? Let us go to the Lord. Holy God, we give you thanks this morning. Sometimes we can walk through our days that you've given us, God, and we don't always see the changes in ourselves. We can look out and we sometimes see those changes in others, our children as they grow, our parents as they age, our communities as they change, as buildings are torn down, as other new ones get built up, as businesses come and go. When we look at ourselves, though, God, sometimes we feel the same. It's moments like today when we step back and we look at one another in this church family, that we try to take a moment and just pause and see what you've done to us. See how you've led us, how you've changed us through one another, how you've built us up, how you've nurtured us, how you've grown us, how you've planted seeds of deeper faith in us. Most especially how you've called us. How you've called us to places that we didn't necessarily think or dream of, and yet here we are, taking a step today that we hadn't taken before. For some of us, it was a mission trip a year ago. For others of us, it's branching out into volunteering for a new ministry. For some of us, it's getting up and participating in music and worship for the first time. For some of us, it's becoming a deacon or an elder for the first time. For some of us, it's taking that step towards a call to ministry in your church. And so, God, we celebrate all this today, especially as we remember Ryan and his faithful service to our church, to this church family, to the people of this community for these past years as he's walked alongside us here at Hood Memorial Christian Church. So we lift him to you today, God, in gratitude and thanksgiving. God, there's also so many people and places and situations that are on our hearts that we care about, some that we're so excited about that we just can't contain our joy, others that are sad, that we are almost brought to a moment of tears. Some that we care about so deeply we just can't stop thinking about them. Others that are almost too difficult to bring to the front of our minds because we care so much. So God, we pray for those who are experiencing moments of darkness. We pray for those who are feeling the touch of despair. We pray for those who are struggling with health, for those who right now are at the hospital and sick, for those who are in different places and parts of the world that are burdened and torn apart by war and violence, for those who go without enough food, for those who don't have a place to lay their head and call home, for those who have lost loved ones. God, we also lift up those who are starting new journeys, those who have had great successes this week, those who have welcomed new life in whatever form, those who are proud of a project accomplished, those who are proud of a child, those who are putting themselves out there in new ways for the first time. God, we celebrate all this. Lord, as we think about all these different situations in our lives, we lift now to you the names and the places and the people. Some of us will do that out loud in this moment. Others of us will do that in the quiet of our mind's eye. God, I pray that in this moment that you will hear them all as we lift these names before you.
North Carolina.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
For those affected by the recent storm,
Yes, Lord.
Ryan Logan's journey,
Yes, Lord.
death of those affected too.
Yes, Lord. God, in your mercy that is beyond compare, meet each of these places and people right where they need you, God. And we pray for wholeness for each. God, I lift the families of each person who's here today. I pray that you would guard, guide, and protect each one. For those who are watching online, Lord, cover them with your love and your care and your guidance. And God, hear us now as we lift to you a prayer that your son Jesus taught us to pray so many years ago, a prayer that continues to beckon us forward to do your will and to be your hands and feet. Hear us as we lift these holy words that your son gave to us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Well, I'm going to invite Joni and Ryan to come forward, if they will. You all know that every once in a while we do things a little different around here, and so today, rather than just have someone stand and proclaim a message from the pulpit by him or herself, sometimes, really more times than we like to admit, God speaks through us together as a family. You know, in one sense, that's really what church family, I think, is about, is all of us listening to how God is speaking through one another's lives and learning and growing from one another. And y'all, we have had the honor and the privilege of getting to do that with Ryan Craddock for over 4 years now. And so we wanted to just take a moment today to reflect on these past few years, to allow Ryan to maybe share with you all a little bit about his journey, and to, I don't know, you're welcome to chime in if you have a story that you want to share as well. That's fair, right?
Sure.
I'll even take a mic down to you if you want to share a story or, you know, maybe something funny. But we really...
Although maybe that's for a fellowship.
It may be,
could
but
be here a
we'll
long
see how
time.
it goes. I'm not going to turn anybody down that wants to share something, though.
Okay.
So I want to begin by asking those of you, how many of you all were here prior
4 years ago.
to COVID? How many of you all were here prior to COVID? So you all will remember a time before Ryan. Many of the rest of you don't remember a time before Ryan, which that was only about half the hands in here, right? So that's pretty phenomenal in terms of what has happened these past years. But so those of you who did raise your hands, you can kind of take yourself back to that place. I remember prior to Ryan coming, right about September 2020. So we had just been through about 6 months of that whole stuff that we don't all want to think about anymore. But the lockdown and the being at home and trying to do church online and being thrust into all this new technology and connectivity, and frankly, Joni and I were overwhelmed at that time, trying to do all the things like many pastors were. Our jobs increased by about 300% in middle of March 2020, and we knew that we needed help. We knew that we needed help really, really bad. And we had actually been preparing for that, although we obviously didn't know anything like COVID was coming. But we had been talking with Campbell Divinity School for probably a year or two in preparation to be a learning congregation. And I say that, a learning congregation, what does that even mean? Joni and I both had the experience when we were in seminary of being interns at a church, and it was for both of us very formative. For me, Pastor Sterling Severance at Tabernacle Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia, is a mentor and friend. I'm getting teary-eyed, and you're not even leaving yet. I don't know if I'm going to make it through today, because it's all the memories. And we had so many people pour into us that we wanted to be a part of that for somebody else. And so Campbell, a lot of their students already had jobs. And so I remember their first sort of saying, I don't know if we're going to find anybody for you, because so many folks are coming to seminary today as second careers, and they're either working jobs and going to school, or they're already at a church and they're going to school. And that's just the situation. So we're not sure we're going to find anybody. So I think I probably talked to people. I would go to chapel service with the Divinity School every Tuesday because I was trying to find somebody. And I remember one of those chapel services, oh my gosh. Derek Hogan.
Yep.
One of the dean of...
Assistant
dean, okay. Introduced me to this man right here. Had no clue who he was. I was like, man, he's tall. And I thought he was younger than me.
How about that?
He's not, but I thought he was younger than me. I thought he was... And well, I didn't think much of it at the time because not much had come from it. I was still trying. I didn't know. It seemed like, okay, an introduction, but will it go anywhere? And within, I think, a year, 6 months to a year later, Ryan begins here. But we at Hood at that time were very much at a place where we were, Joni and I, being very overwhelmed. All the new technology of COVID, knowing that we felt that we wanted to be able to give back, not only as pastors, but as a church family, to people in a way that had been given to us. And so thus began our journey. We were overwhelmed with technology, not able to get around to everybody, partly because of COVID, but part of that was just because of time and really just trying to figure out how to do all this with a growing church congregation at the time. And so enters Ryan Craddock. So Ryan, that's where kind of a little bit of where we were, not everything, but a little bit of where we were. But what's your side of the story?
Well, my side was I was about halfway through divinity school, and so had an internship coming up and wanted to do that and wanted to check out. Now, I had seen early, I was out at Plainview at a church, and when these folks moved to town, I saw a newspaper article about their work in Charlotte and inside. And I was like, okay, those are two folks I want to meet. Lo and behold, years later, Dr. Hogan introduced us. And it was right at the start of COVID. Things were, well, as we know, it was COVID. And so I was like, man, I liked that article. I liked what little I knew. And I was like, man, I want to work with these people because I feel like, we're on the same flow with reaching out to the community and doing a lot of non-conventional, sadly, non-conventional ministry in the community. So that happened. I came on, and I was like, and also I wanted to see what it was like to work with full-time pastors, people who do this, which is what they do and all they do. And I was like, man, let's see how to really do it. And thank God I met, well, as you all know, I mean, it's the real deal folks here. People who are totally sold out to this. And I wanted to help and saw how hard they worked, how good they were, how big their hearts are, how good their minds were. And I was like, man, I don't know what I can do. I'm just going to try to begin to take some of this stuff off their plate, everything that was on there. And it was piled high, and I would take some off, and they would add some more stuff on, right? And I've been continuous, but that has been, and was learning all the tech stuff, learning just what this looks like, all the community stuff, all the various streams of ministry that these folks are involved in, and also because of that, how this church is involved in all these things. So I just want to get a part of this, and it was like, all right, I can learn some of this stuff and stumble through it like I normally do, and that's what happened.
Which is, it's kind of funny too, Ryan. You remind me that in seminary, you get a lot of Bible, right? Which rightly so, right? You get a lot of church history, you get a lot of theology, you get some Hebrew and Greek, but what you don't get, how to set up a live stream. You don't get, how do you manage, I'm gonna be a little, try to be a little funny. How do you manage a herd of deacon and elders? You don't get that stuff. And frankly, most of those classes that they do offer to try, I'm joking with y'all looking at me like, you know how it is when you have to herd people.
And how do you manage a pandemic?
How do you manage, they don't teach that stuff. And the classes that they do offer are like so business and corporate oriented in most settings that they don't fit the church, right? Y'all deacons and elders, we don't run a deacon and elder meeting like you are going to run something in the business world. It's not the same. You're not doing the same work. We're doing ministry. We're not selling a product, right? So anyway, and so the kind of things that an internship affords you to learn is just so important, because we didn't get any of these skills when we came through it. Yeah. Churches weren't live streaming much. So even things like that, which seem so mundane, are just incredibly valuable skills for pastors. But Ryan also picked up so many things. I mean, to have someone with the kind of counseling training that Ryan has had, that you know that you can just say, Ryan, can you please go visit so-and-so today? Can you please check in on so-and-so? And not even have to blink, because he can probably do that better than we can, is just a true gift to have.
Yeah, the practical application and just the practice day in and day out. I mean, as we all know, I mean, it's good to learn in theory and to learn how this is done and learn all this, but getting thrown into it and actually doing it, that's where the transformation and the learning occurs.
So one of the things that Ryan has done and stepped into, and I've just admired how he can connect so well, is he's used his experience with counseling and addiction services and that sort of thing. He has a lot of experience there that Jason and I didn't have. And so he has really connected with the different services that meet here at the church. And he's kind of been like our church liaison to some of those groups that meet here regularly. And if they have needs, or if we have needs, or we need them to switch things around, he's been a great communicator with them. And that has been, he knows how to share with them and hold integrity on all sides. And it's a beautiful gift that you have given us in those connections. And that's one of the ways I've seen you grow and get stronger. And even, I think Jason and I got to sit on a couple boards of counseling when you were going through some certifications and that kind of stuff, just to see Ryan has this ever-ending desire and passion to learn and grow closer to God. And I think that is a unique opportunity for us all to watch and grow. Mm-hmm. And have loved seeing you grow in that way. So my leading question for you is, where else have you felt yourself growing over the past 4 years?
Well, that's a big one. Thanks for bringing that. A couple things ran across my mind. Like one of the times, the first time I think I came here to visit, and it was on a Monday or a Tuesday, and somebody was coming from the parking lot and needed help. just like that. I mean, it happens all the time because of the location and the reputation that this church has built around here. People know that this is a place where they can come. And that's happened, throughout my journey here, and the ability for people to actually come to a church and seek help and find it, and find resources for that. You're not going to solve every problem and everything right quick, but we can help and refer and give them some help for some gas or some food and things like that. It's just is wonderful. What was the question again?
What is transformed within you? How have you grown?
Oh man, it's so huge. And that's part of it, it's like, one of the things is, it's like doing this, I feel that, the way these two work and with the hearts and the minds and the ability to solve problems and handle things on the fly and just, get it done and do God's best. Do your best and let God take care of the rest. I've seen this courage and this motivation, just like, man, let's get it done. And all these different areas of the church and reaching out. And for me, it's like, man, what am I, I guess, the pastoral care, counseling, the natural stuff, and that I've grown in that for the abilities. But most of the stuff, man, and that's how I see myself, it's like, I've always seen myself as a church member, not so much as a pastor, because that's what I've mostly been. And so I think it was weird, thinking about this, and that's like, I think that's kind of encouraging to folks, that they can see big goofy Ryan walking around doing his deal and, not being, stumbling all the way through, and be like, man, I got gifts that I can share, and God makes it work out, because we all do.
And I want to yes. When you came 4 years ago, you were pretty clear with Jason and I that you really were not interested in pastoral ministry. And you have taken on more preaching as the years have passed, and you've heard God's call pretty clearly now.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, because for us that's a beautiful thing, that as a church we've helped Ryan move from, I am not gonna be pastor, but taking on senior, which is a beautiful thing, which we feel confident you're prepared for.
Man, it's a big change. Well, first off, that had been my default, because I've been running from a call from God ever since I was a teenager, right? So, feeling, I think, what a lot of us feel. Oh, I'm not good enough. I know me, and it's like, no, that's good. I get ticked off kind of easy, I get frustrated. I can be lazy, all these certain things, just regular human stuff. And so it was a default from early on, but somehow, in some way, even in leaving God throughout my life, or feeling like I did, God never left me. And like you said, that desire that God put in my heart to continue to learn and continue to, even more than that, just continue to long for God's presence in my life, and to want that closeness, and to believe in that closeness, that God's not far away, that God is right here, right now, all the time, for every human being. And just to have that, so that closeness, God's reality, just kept working on me. And as far as the impact here, I think it gave me new hope in the church and in the pastorate. To see what these two do on a continuous basis, week in and week out, day in and day out, all the time. That renewed my faith in the pastorate. And to see what you all are like, to see how you all love and care and do and the grace afforded to me during this time, and the love, and to see how everybody works together, that's been a huge thing. You know, with traveling through a lot of churches, you'll see dynamics in any system, whether it's family, businesses, churches, whatever. You see the unhealthy people stuff coming in. But man, it has been beautiful to see people, children of God, disciples, acting like it and living like it and working together in unity. You know, that was one of the things Jason said early on that I never heard about before. We were talking about leadership and servant leadership, and Jason had seen that as a more of a corporate trait, that leadership's a corporate trait, more so when it's normally, like most things in our society, is looked at as an individual trait. But it's corporate here. We're working together. Every voice matters. And to see Joni, you know, work that out all the time, always having time for anyone, anywhere, in whatever situation, you know. And y'all too. Just, it's real. And that was the biggest change, because I know that how important the church is. And all these things that we complain about, or all the problems and stuff. That's why we're here, is to help this world become a better place. To bring that heaven down. That's why we're here. So when we're doing that, all the rest gets better.
You know, I try to be brief, but you remind me, Ryan, of something that was so valuable to me when I was doing an internship, is that the pastor that I got to work with, the pastoral staff, saw all of us interns at the time, and you haven't been an intern for the past 3 years, but you came in that way, of course, and just allowing us to be able to speak together as a team and to work together as a team, knowing that, like, this isn't one person who's leading the show, but that we figure out where to go and where to move together, and we bounce ideas off one another, and we say, hey, I got this idea for a sermon series. What do you think about this? Is this tracking? Is this where the congregation is? Is this maybe what we need to hear? No, yeah, maybe so. I think it's one of those gifts that is sorely missing from far too many churches, is that there's somebody who basically runs the show like a CEO of a business, and that is not the way God designed the church. And frankly, it's some of the places where churches really get themselves in trouble, right? When some pastor gets too much authority and too much ability to do what he or she wants to do, and then you know the stories in the news, y'all, right? Whether it's embezzlement or other problems that seep in, and I don't even want to say from the pulpit here, but and I think it's, again, one of those things that they just don't. How do you talk about? I don't even know how you teach that at seminary, but somebody needs to figure it out. But it is one of the gifts that was given to us, and I'm so proud and thankful to hear you say it, because maybe we're doing something.
Oh yeah.
Maybe together we're doing something. Would you? Now I'm gonna shut up. Would you share maybe a couple of things that stand out in your mind in terms of the past 4 years that have just been special or meaningful moments here at the church? Highlights for you in terms of the past 4 years, that whether it's 1 or 5, I don't care, but what are some of those highlights that stand out to you that were just meaningful times or experiences or services or trips or whatever it might be?
Well, they're endless, and they happen, you know, daily, every time that we're here. You know, it's those little bits of hellos and smiles and uplifts and gifts and trips outside of the church and getting to know lovely people and friends, you know, and just see these relationships develop. And one of the biggest surprises that happened was, you know, my time spent with the youth over the last couple of years. With Kathy and Al, taking on their role, all the parents of these youth that are so involved, and Jason and Joni doing the community stuff and getting to know folks, you know, and introducing through the theater and through their gifts and their interests, you know, and bringing folks in. But those relationships, when we started, you know, we had 3 youths, and they're not youths anymore, you know, they're all in school and stuff, Anderson and Miranda and Colton, and that's where we started, when we were doing stuff online, and we were bringing them here to do the Christmas services online with all our youth program, and so it started early on. We could see the importance of youth. They're not the future church, and our kids are the church right now, but these, our students, to get to know them, to see their journey, and to develop these relationships and this care. One of the biggest things what that did for me, that I was totally unexpected and that transformed me was, see, I didn't have that experience as a youth, and I didn't have that core group of kids to hang out with. I didn't have that type of leadership on a regular basis in those programs. And you know, I felt that over the years, and not just during teen times are hard to navigate, but they last. You know, decisions we make when we're teenagers can roll into our 20s and 30s like they did with me. And so to be involved with these folks, engage with them, see their dynamics, see their work, and then be a part of their lives, and they a part of mine. I mean, all of Jason and Joni's kids were in my wedding, you know? These guys, that's a lot of changes that happen here, but all that to say, and this is what I didn't even realize until this last couple days, really taking some time and thinking about that stuff. That brought me healing. That healed my inner teen. That healed teenage Ryan in here. Hurts and pains and things that weren't healed for so long. You know, it rearranged the game inside of my heart. So I'm so thankful for that, and thankful for all of you, because that's a huge blessing to see you grow. It took me a few decades to grow like that, but you guys got it early, so I appreciate that.
I'm gonna take a deep breath for a second. I want to share a scripture that came to mind as I reflected on Ryan's time with us and where his journey is taking him. I don't want to say that his journey is taking him from us. I think his journey is going to be like an extension of us and our congregation, an hour north-ish in Wendell. And so hear these words from Isaiah. How delightful it is to see approaching over the mountains the feet of a messenger who announces peace. A messenger who brings good news, and a messenger who brings and announces deliverance, and says to Zion, your God reigns. For that, Ryan, that is your testimony in my life, watching you with this, the ministry here, is that you have brought peace. In the instances you were just talking about, that we've been able to grow the youth group and provide peace for them, that you've been able to provide peace and good news for people who walk in the parking lot feeling helpless. And that you've been able to say our God reigns every Sunday morning as part of our worship. And so I'm grateful for that in you. What other thoughts does that spur on for you?
Man, I mean, who would have thought? God's still working miracles, you know. A lot of us, I mean, I know what my life has been like. I know that it is very fortunate that I'm even alive at this time. And there's been times in my life where I didn't want to be. And God rescued me over and over. God changes us over and over, resurrects us over and over in little tiny ways, and sometimes in huge ways. God is so real and so good. Even though we forget that, that doesn't change the reality of who God is, you know. And I was just so fortunate. And looking back on these 4 years, man, so many changes, but they've all been so, so good. You know, graduating, like I said, getting married, buying a house together, graduating divinity school, getting the counseling certificates, going into, you know, ministry for real, and then going off to another place to be lead pastor. You know, it's like I couldn't have done it. You know, it wouldn't have happened. God saw it appropriate to do it this way, and it was the best way possible.
Amen.
And I had no idea that it was happening. So all these little decisions that we're making, God's working together. It's good to give God a seat at the table, right, when we're making these decisions. You know, where to go to school, who to talk to, where to do your internships, what shirt to wear, all these things.
So allow us to leave you with this thought today. We read a passage like what Joni just read. Messengers to bring good news, to speak peace. And I think too often we look at it and we read it and we think, oh, that's talking about Jesus. Oh, that's talking about one of God's angels. And we forget that it's talking about you and you and you. And that's what God has done here with Ryan, is he's raised up another messenger who is ready to go out. And I won't say take the reins of a church, because that's not how we do things, right? That's how other people might, but that's not how we do things. But to go out and to be a shepherd and a guide, and to help a church find a vision and a future together in a